The morning sky over New York turned strange. At first it was a shimmer, like sunlight reflecting off metal high above the clouds. People stopped in the streets to look up. Traffic slowed. Phones came out to record the sight. Then, without warning, the shimmering grew into massive shapes. They descended slowly, blocking out the sun. Similar scenes played out in London, Beijing, Sydney, and dozens of other cities. The ships were not like anything humans had built. They were smooth, silver, and shaped like crescents. Lights pulsed along their edges, and the air seemed to hum as they moved. In an underground command center in Colorado, General Mason stood with his arms crossed, watching the live feeds from satellites and news networks. His jaw was set, his eyes steady. Around him, officers spoke in hurried tones, reporting sightings and scanning for signals. They're positioning themselves above major population centers. A young technician said, her voice tight. Mason nodded. They want a show of power. At exactly noon local time in each city, the ship stopped moving. Then the air itself seemed to carry a deep, rolling voice. It was not coming from speakers or radio. It came from everywhere at once. Inside every home, every office, every street. The words were translated into every language on Earth. People of Earth, you now belong to the Galactic Empire. Your world is a new vassal. You will pay tribute. Each year you will send food, minerals, and workers to serve the Empire. Refusal will bring your destruction. The voice paused, as if expecting fear and obedience. In the command center, no one moved. Mason looked at the large map of the world on the wall, his mind already moving ahead. He had served in wars before, and he knew the sound of an enemy who believed victory was certain. The voice continued, you have 7 days to prepare your tribute. We will return to collect. Comply, and your cities will remain. Resist, and you will be erased. The sound faded. The alien ships remained still, hanging like blades in the sky. News networks filled with experts arguing. Some urged cooperation. Others warned that resistance was impossible. In the streets, people shouted, prayed, or stood in silence. Later that night, in a secure meeting room deep beneath the command center, the leaders of Earth's most powerful nations sat around a long table. Mason stood at the head. They think we're afraid, he said. They think we'll bow without a fight. The president of one nation frowned. If their technology is centuries ahead of ours, how can we win? Mason's voice was calm. They've made a mistake. They've shown their strength, but they've also shown where it's concentrated. Those ships are their command hubs. If we destroy them, they'll be blind. A scientist from the European delegation leaned forward. Even if we target them, they will have energy shields. Our normal weapons won't work. Not normal weapons, Mason replied. We have something else, and we have the element of surprise. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what he meant. Earth's nuclear arsenal had been a shadow over humanity for decades. A weapon never used in full scale. But against these invaders, it might be the only equalizer. Mason tapped the table, bringing up a holographic image of the alien ships in orbit. We have a week before they come for their so-called tribute. In that time, we will prepare. We will coordinate launches from silos, submarines, and mobile platforms. We will reprogram targeting systems to adapt to their movements, and we will make sure the first thing they learn about humanity is that we do not kneel. The leaders looked at each other. Some were uneasy, others looked ready for war. In the days that followed, the world changed. Borders blurred as military forces shared information and technology. Scientists worked in secret labs to modify warheads for maximum impact. Engineers designed decoys to hide the real launch sites. Ordinary citizens prepared in their own way. In cities, volunteers built shelters underground. Farmers donated supplies to military convoys. Fishermen offered their boats for covert transport along coasts. Humanity, for once, moved as one. From orbit, the alien ships watched but did not interfere. Perhaps they believed Earth's activity was nothing more than frantic tribute gathering. Their arrogance kept them still. In the command center, Mason studied every movement of the ships. He noticed patterns, slight shifts in position every few hours, likely to align with communication relays. He noted which ships lingered over industrial regions and which hovered above capitals. One night, his aide, a young officer named Lena, approached him. "Sir, we have analyzed their arrival routes. It seems they used a series of hidden gates beyond the moon to appear here undetected." Mason's eyes narrowed. "Then we destroy those gates too. If we cut off their path, reinforcements will take longer to arrive." By the sixth day, the plan was ready. Warheads were loaded. Launch coordinates were programmed. Stealth drones were set to relay targeting updates in real time. Every military branch was on high alert. Mason stood before his staff. "Tomorrow they will come for their tribute. We will give them an answer they will never forget." That night, he walked through the lower levels of the command center, where engineers made last checks on the systems. He saw their tired faces, their steady hands, their quiet determination. Above ground, the cities were tense. Families stayed indoors. Soldiers patrolled empty streets. The sky was clear, the air still. Somewhere out there, alien eyes were watching Dottin. The early hours before dawn, Mason returned to the operations floor. The big screen showed all major cities under alien ships. The ships were glowing faintly now, as if charging their systems. The moment was close. His voice carried across the room. "No one here wanted this fight, but they brought it to us. Tomorrow, the galaxy will learn something new about humanity. We are not prey." Outside, the alien ships hovered silently, unaware that beneath the quiet surface of the Earth, fire was waiting to rise. The day after the alien broadcast, the world was still tense. The ships remained in the sky, unmoving, as if watching from above. They did not send soldiers or weapons. They simply waited, their silver hulls gleaming in the sun. To most people, it was a sign of their confidence. To General Mason, it was an opportunity. Inside the underground command center, giant screens displayed every angle of the alien vessels. Surveillance satellites tracked their orbits. Special listening stations intercepted strange bursts of radio and light signals between the ships. Teams of analysts worked without rest, translating and decoding. Lena, the young officer who had been working closely with Mason, brought him a tablet filled with data. "Sir, we have intercepted fragments of their language. The translation program is slow, but we're learning. They refer to us as pre-industrial bipeds." Mason frowned. "They think we're primitive. That arrogance will make them careless." He turned to the science division. "I want every scrap of information on their technology, weapons, shields, engines, communications, everything, over the next 2 days." Teams worked around the clock. They learned that the alien ships had layered energy shields powered by large reactors in the center of each craft. The shields could block most energy weapons, but they were less effective against sudden high-density impacts. That meant nuclear warheads might break through if they hit at the right angle and velocity. More important was what they learned about the Empire's command structure. The aliens operated in strict hierarchy. Each regional fleet answered to a single command ship. Destroy that ship, and the rest of the fleet would lose coordination until a new leader was assigned. For a short window, chaos would reign. Mason studied the diagrams and reports. "If we can hit the command ships first, the rest will be blind and confused. That's when we strike everything else," while the military gathered intelligence. Civilian scientists offered help. A group from Japan developed a new missile guidance system capable of adjusting mid-flight to track moving targets. Engineers in Germany modified old communication satellites into decoys, designed to make alien sensors think they were weapons. At the same time, hackers in several countries worked together to crack alien transmission codes. After long hours of failed attempts, they finally managed to decode a short conversation between 2 alien officers. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. The aliens considered Earth's defenses unworthy of attention. They were more worried about keeping their own tribute schedule across other star systems than about a human attack. Mason called a meeting with the heads of each division. "They see us as nothing more than a checkpoint on their route. That overconfidence is our weapon. We will make them pay for it." He pointed to the global map. "In 72 hours, they will come to collect the tribute. We will be ready before then. Our submarines will position themselves here, here, and here. His finger tapped points in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, missile silos. In North America, Asia, and Europe will coordinate with them. Every launch will be synchronized to hit within seconds of each other. An officer from the Air Force raised a concern. Sir, their shields might still hold against the first wave. Mason nodded. That's why we'll send decoys first. They'll think they've stopped our attack when the real strike is right behind it. Over the next day, preparations intensified. Warheads were loaded into launchers. Pilots practiced emergency maneuvers in case the aliens deployed smaller craft to counterattack. Submarine crews received sealed orders to be open only hours before the attack. Meanwhile, Lena and the intelligence team kept watching the alien fleet for any sign of change. Late one evening, Lena rushed into Mason's office. Sir, we've picked up a strange pattern. Every 12 hours, the command ships send a large data burst to the others. We think it's an updated set of orders and targeting maps. Mason leaned back in his chair. If we can jam that signal during our strike, their response will be even slower. The cyber division worked quickly, designing a program that could mimic the alien signal but fill it with meaningless data. If it worked, the alien ships would be stuck processing fake orders while the real attack tore through their defenses. On the fifth night, Mason stood in the main operations room, looking at the countdown clock on the wall. It showed just under 48 hours. Around him, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Everyone knew what was coming. A video link connected him to leaders of other nations. Some were dressed in military uniforms, others in formal suits, but all wore the same expression of determination. We have one chance, Mason said. If we succeed, we show the galaxy we are not to be taken. If we fail, we may not get another chance to fight. I trust each of you to hold your ground and keep your people strong across the world. The military machine of Earth was awake. Long-forgotten missile silos were powered on for the first time in decades. Hidden bases in mountains and deserts became active. Submarines slipped quietly into the deep. Avoiding detection, the alien ships remained still, their lights pulsing faintly in the night sky. They made no attempt to contact humanity again. It was as if they had already decided Earth's fate and saw no reason to waste more words. By the evening of the sixth day, everything was in place. Mason walked the rows of consoles, speaking briefly to operators and technicians. He could see the weight of the moment in their faces. Some were young, barely out of training. Others were veterans who had served in old wars. All of them were ready. Lena joined him near the main display. All units are reporting ready status, sir. We'll have final weather updates for launch sites in 1 hour. Mason gave a small nod. Good. No surprises. Outside, in the dark fields beyond the command center, the air was still. The stars above looked the same as they always had, but now humanity knew they were not alone. And tomorrow, they would prove to the galaxy that Earth was not a world to be conquered without cost. As Mason prepared to leave the floor for a short rest before the final day, he paused to look at the map one last time. The alien ships glowed faintly against the black of space, calm and unmoving. They think we're quiet because we're afraid. He said softly to Lena, but we're quiet because we're ready. The seventh day began with a strange stillness. Across the world, streets were empty. People stayed indoors, watching the skies or the news. In every major city, the alien ships still hovered above like silver blades, silent and UNMOVING. In the underground command center, General Mason stood in front of the large display wall. Red and blue icons marked the positions of both human forces and alien vessels. The countdown clock above the main screen showed less than 2 hours until the planned tribute collection. All launch teams report readiness, Lena said, walking briskly to Mason's side. Submarine groups are in position. Silo crews are on final checks. Drone swarms are armed and standing by. Mason gave a single nod. Good. We wait for them to make the first move. High above, on the alien command ship, the crew was preparing for their own operation. Intercepted transmissions revealed they intended to send small landing craft into city centers to to collect resources and, possibly, take selected humans away. The Empire's officers moved without urgency. Their confidence in their shields and weapons was absolute. The first sign of action came when several dark shapes detached from the alien ships and began to descend. They were the collectors, large crafts shaped like inverted towers, gliding toward the ground. "All stations," Mason called, his voice firm but calm. "This is it. Remember your orders. Phase 1. Decoys. Phase 2. Full strike. On his signal, hidden silos and remote planes opened their heavy steel doors. From under the ocean's surface, hatches on submarines slid open. In the sky, disguised satellites shifted into firing position. The first wave launched, not nuclear warheads, but decoy missiles and drones designed to mimic their signatures. The alien ships reacted instantly. Bright walls of light flashed as their shields flared to life. Laser turrets pivoted and fired beams into the incoming wave, destroying dozens of false targets in bursts of fire. On the ground, people watching from rooftops saw streaks of light cutting across the sky and thought the real attack had already begun. Inside the command center, Lena's eyes were locked on her console. Shields are active, energy levels spiking. They're committing full power to defense. Mason leaned forward. Wait for the gap now. The second wave launched. This time it was real. Hundreds of nuclear warheads surged into the air, from silos, submarines, and mobile launchers. Guided by the advanced tracking systems developed in secret, they moved in coordinated arcs, targeting the command ships first. The alien sensors detected them too late, their shields, already stressed from intercepting the decoys, flickered at the edges. The first warhead struck the shield of the largest command ship above North America. The impact sent ripples across the protective field, and then the warhead detonated with a blinding flash. The shield collapsed. A second and third warheads struck within seconds, tearing through the hull. From space, the explosion looked like a flower of white and gold spreading in the darkness. Direct hit on primary target. An operator shouted. Similar scenes played out over Europe and Asia. The command ships shook under multiple impacts, some breaking apart entirely, others tumbling away in flames. Without centralized orders, the smaller alien vessels began to drift, their movements uncoordinated. The people on the ground could see the change. The hovering crafts wavered, some tilting as if damaged, others slowly rising back toward orbit. Cheers erupted in shelters and living rooms, though the fight was far from over. The Empire's response was quick from the surviving ships. Waves of smaller attack craft poured into the atmosphere. They fired beams of white energy at launch sites, destroying several silos and hitting a submarine before it could submerge again. Cities near active battle zones shook from the impacts. Mason did not flinch. Phase 3. Target their landing craft. Keep the pressure on the remaining command ships. Anti-air batteries hidden in city buildings opened fire. Modified fighter jets, armed with both missiles and experimental railguns, streaked into the sky to intercept alien craft in several places. Human pilots used risky maneuvers to lure enemy fighters into traps, where ground-based weapons tore them apart. Above South America, one command ship managed to keep its shields up. Mason saw it on the main display. All available units, focus fire on that ship. Bring it down. A coordinated barrage from multiple launch sites struck the ship from different angles. The shields flickered, then collapsed entirely. A final warhead struck the reactor, and the vessel erupted in a massive explosion that could be seen for hundreds of kilometers. In the middle of the chaos, Lena's console beeped sharply. "Sir, the alien data signal has been disrupted. Our jamming program is working. They're receiving corrupted orders." "That gives us time," Mason said. "Push forward." The battle raged for over an hour. The sky above several continents turned into a mix of fire and smoke. On the ground, resistance teams armed with captured alien rifles ambushed enemy troops who had landed earlier. Civilians helped where they could, moving supplies and aiding the wounded. By the second hour, half of the alien command ships had been destroyed. The rest were retreating higher into orbit, their remaining forces scattering without direction. In one control room aboard a retreating vessel, An alien officer reported in his own language that the humans had used weapons beyond expected capacity. His superior, wounded and pale, simply ordered a fallback to regroup. They had underestimated this planet. Back in the command center, Mason watched the final moments of the strike. They're pulling back, Lena confirmed. We forced them out of low orbit. Mason did not smile. They'll be back. But now they know we can hurt them. As the alien ships move farther away, human forces focused on recovery. Rescue teams searched damaged launch sites. Fires in several cities were brought under control. In the shelters, families emerged to see that the silver blades in the sky were gone, replaced by thin trails of smoke. The news spread quickly. In every country, people spoke of how Earth had struck first, how the mighty empire had been wounded by a world they thought was weak. That night, as the command center shifted into a quieter mode, Mason stood at the observation deck, looking at the stars through reinforced glass. Lena joined him. "We did it," she said. "For now," Mason replied. "The hardest part is still coming. They'll want revenge." Lena's eyes were steady. "Then we'll be ready." Above them, the night sky was calm again. But in the distance, far beyond human sight, the surviving alien fleets were already turning back toward their masters, carrying news that would change the balance of the galaxy. The sun rose over a wounded world. Smoke rose from several cities, and the smell of burnt metal hung in the air. People stepped out of shelters cautiously, looking to the sky. The alien ships had pulled back during the night, but no one believed. They were gone for good. In the underground command center, General Mason stood before the big display wall. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Around him, officers spoke quickly, reporting damages and repair work. Lena approached with a tablet. "Casualties are high in the coastal cities," she said quietly. "We've lost 3 submarines and multiple silos, but our main strike capability is still intact." Mason nodded. "Good, because they will come back, and when they do, they'll come harder." He was right. Hours later, the satellite feeds showed movement at the edge of Earth's orbit. The surviving alien ships had regrouped, and reinforcements were arriving from beyond the moon. The new vessels were darker, bulkier, built for war rather than intimidation. They formed into attack lines and began their descent. "All units, prepare for incoming," Mason ordered. The first wave came without warning. Massive energy beams lanced down from the alien warships, striking military installations and power plants. Explosions lit the ground, sending shock waves through entire districts and the cities. Sirens wailed again as civilians ran for cover. From the north, dozens of alien troop carriers entered the atmosphere. They released smaller craft that darted through the air, firing at anything that moved. Human fighter jets scrambled to intercept, engaging in sharp, fast battles over farmland and city streets. In one city, anti-air emplacements hidden on rooftops fired upward, cutting down several alien fighters. But more kept coming. The invaders landed heavily armored soldiers, each twice the size of a human and armed with glowing weapons. Mason had planned for this. "Initiate urban defense plan," he commanded. In the city streets, hidden barricades sprang up. Soldiers popped out from alleys, firing both human-made rifles and captured alien guns. Buildings had been rigged with traps, collapsing walls, hidden explosives, and narrow kill zones. Every block turned into a battlefield. From her post in the command center, Lena monitored the fight. "Sir, they're pushing into Sector 14. If they break through, they'll reach the central highway." Mason didn't hesitate. "Redirect armor units from the west flank. Trap them in the underpass." Minutes later, tanks and armored vehicles moved into position. When the alien soldiers advanced through the concrete underpass, charges planted in the walls detonated, sealing them inside. From above, troops poured fire down into the trapped invaders, until the last one fell. Still, the aliens were relentless. In orbit, the new warships targeted Earth's communication satellites, cutting off several regions from command. Mason's team switched to shortwave and hardline communications, refusing to let the network collapse. In the Pacific, a human naval fleet engaged alien cruisers. The battle was brutal. Alien weapons tore through the water with deadly precision, but Earth's ships fought fiercely. Modified torpedoes struck the underside of alien vessels, breaching their hulls and sending several crashing into the sea. Back on land, resistance fighters in rural areas ambushed alien patrols, using the terrain to their advantage. Forested regions became deadly traps, swamps swallowed alien walkers. Even deserts hid surprises, with camouflage artillery emerging from the sand to fire at low-flying craft. Lena kept watching the data feeds. They're trying to land more command units near our missile reserves, she reported. Mason looked at the map. They want to take our strike ability out completely. We can't let that happen. He ordered a counterattack. Dozens of fighter jets and drones took to the skies, intercepting the transports before they could land. In one daring move, a pilot intentionally collided his damaged jet into an alien transport, sacrificing himself to prevent the enemy from reinforcing their ground forces. By the third hour of battle, the air was thick with smoke. The alien fleet had managed to destroy several of Earth's defense lines, but they had not broken through. The humans fought with stubborn persistence, adapting to every push. Then, without warning, the aliens shifted tactics. A group of their warships moved into low orbit, ignoring the fighting below. Instead, they began bombarding large open areas, farmland, forests, and uninhabited plains. Mason realized their plan. They're trying to wipe out our supply lines, he said. Cut our food and resources so we starve. Do we pull forces to protect them? Lena asked. Mason shook his head. No, if we thin our defenses, they'll break through the cities. We hold the line here. We'll rebuild the farms later. It was a hard choice, but it kept the defense intact. Alien ground forces continued to lose momentum, slowed by barricades, traps, and constant human counterattacks. By nightfall, the battle had reached a stalemate. High above, the alien fleet pulled back again, their losses too high to continue. But Mason knew they were not retreating in defeat. They were gathering for another strike, one that would be even more dangerous. In the command center, reports came in from across the world. Cities were damaged but still standing. Military forces were battered but ready. And most importantly, the people had not lost hope. Lena approached Mason. They hit us with everything they had, and we're still here. Mason looked at the holographic map of Earth. We hurt them before. We held against their best today. But this war isn't just about survival anymore. Other worlds are watching. And if we can keep standing, we might not be fighting alone much longer. Far beyond Earth, in hidden corners of the galaxy, the battle was being broadcast by rebel networks. Other enslaved species saw the images of human resistance and felt something they had not felt in years, the spark of defiance. The next phase of the war was already taking shape, and it would not just be Earth against the Empire. The fires from the last battle still glowed faintly in the distance when the strange signal came. It was faint, buried deep in the noise of space communications, almost like a whisper across the stars. Most of the technicians dismissed it as static, but one operator in the underground command center noticed an unusual pattern. Sir, she called to Lena. I think this is deliberate. It's repeating every 6 minutes, but the frequency shifts in a way that looks like language. Lena leaned over her console, listening to the faint pulses. That's not the Empire's format. Patch it through to the translation team. Hours later, Mason was called into the secure decoding room. The scientists and linguists there were pale with excitement. One of them stood and handed him a data pad. General, it's not just a signal. It's a message, and it's not from the Empire. Mason scanned the first lines. It was written in rough, broken human language, but the meaning was clear. We are the Terran. We have been slaves to the Empire for generations. We saw your fight. You give us hope. We can help you strike them where they are weak. Mason set the pad down and looked around the room. This changes everything. The Terran explained in later transmissions that they had been forced to work in the Empire's war factories, building weapons and ships. They had no armies of their own anymore. But they had knowledge of the Empire's supply lines, its weak points, and its internal politics for days. The humans and Terran exchanged coded messages, avoiding the Empire's scanners. The Terran sent maps of hidden warplanes used by the Empire to move between systems quickly. They also revealed that the energy shields protecting the largest warships could be disrupted by concentrated electromagnetic bursts, a weakness the Empire had kept secret from most of its own officers. In return, Mason shared details of Earth's victories and losses. He told them about the coordinated missile strike, the defense of the cities, and the refusal to surrender. The Terran replied with quiet admiration. "You are the first world to make them bleed in centuries." While these secret talks continued, the war on Earth slowed to smaller skirmishes. The Empire seemed to be reorganizing after their failed assaults. But Mason knew this was only a pause before the next wave. One night, during a private meeting with his senior staff, Mason revealed the new plan. "We're not just going to defend Earth anymore. With the Terrans' help, we're going to hit them far from here." He pointed to a star map projected above the table. "These are their supply routes. This one here runs through an asteroid belt in a system called Renner. It's lightly guarded because they think no one knows about it. If we strike there, we can cut off fuel and munitions to their entire fleet in this sector." A naval commander frowned. "Sir, our ships aren't made for deep space battles. We've been fighting in our own orbit." Mason nodded. "That's why we'll use a small task force, fast, quiet, and loaded with long-range weapons. We're not going for a stand-up fight. We're going to hit hard and vanish before they know what happened." The plan was risky, but every officer in the room knew the importance of the opportunity. If the Empire's supply chain broke, their warships over Earth would be forced to retreat or risk running out of fuel and ammunition. Within a week, the preparations were complete. The Terrans sent data on how to slip past the Empire's sensor nets. Human engineers worked day and night to retrofit older ships with stealth plating and improved engines. The fleet that would carry out the strike was small, 5 destroyer-class vessels, 3 missile frigates, and a handful of scout craft. Before launch, Mason addressed the crews. "You are going where no human ship has gone. The Empire will never expect you. Remember, this mission is not about glory. It's about survival for Earth and for every world under their rule. If we succeed, we give hope to more than just ourselves." The task force left under the cover of night, slipping away from Earth's orbit without alerting the enemy. Lena stayed behind in the command center to coordinate communications and monitor the mission. For days, the fleet traveled in silence through deep space, following the hidden routes the Terran had provided. The crew members spoke in hushed voices, aware that one wrong move could bring the Empire's patrols crashing down on them. When they finally reached the Renner system, the asteroid belt loomed ahead, a jagged field of rock and ice drifting through darkness. Hidden among the asteroids was a convoy of Empire supply ships, massive freighters, each carrying enough resources to fuel a fleet for months. The human ships moved into position, guided by the scouts weaving through the asteroid field. Mason's orders were simple: hit the freighters first, then take out the escort ships before they could call for help. The first salvo of missiles streaked from the darkness, striking the lead freighter. The explosion lit up the asteroid belt, sending chunks of metal and rock spinning into space. A second and third freighter followed, torn apart by precise fire. The escort ships reacted too late. Human railguns punched through their armor, and torpedoes found their targets. Within minutes, the entire convoy was gone. Nothing left but drifting debris. Lena's voice came over the secure channel from Earth. Transmission from the Terran just came in. They say the Empire's fleet near Earth is already reporting shortages. You did it. Mason allowed himself a rare smile. Then we moved to Phase 2. The galaxy needs to see this. Over the next weeks, word of the strike spread quietly among the Empire's oppressed worlds. Smugglers carried the news. Pirate broadcasters repeated the story. For the first time in generations, the Empire's aura of invincibility was cracking. And for the first time, Mason realized that Earth was no longer just fighting for its own survival. It was leading something bigger. The beginnings of a galactic rebellion. The human and Terran fleets moved cautiously through the void of space toward Jupiter. It was a long journey, filled with tension. Every ship was silent, their engines humming softly as they slipped past asteroid fields and abandoned satellites. General Mason stood on the bridge of the lead destroyer, watching the stars stretch in streaks as they traveled at maximum speed. "This is it," he said quietly to Lena, who was monitoring communications. "The Empire's central fleet is waiting. If we fail, they will crush us." Lena's fingers flew over the controls. "All systems are green, sir. The Terran scouts report no patrols ahead, but they warn that the fleet's defenses are stronger than anything we've faced so far." The crew remained calm, but their eyes betrayed their tension. They had trained for this. But space battles were unpredictable, and the stakes could not be higher. Every decision mattered. When they finally emerged from the last asteroid field, the fleet spread before them like a dark wall against the glow of Jupiter. Hundreds of Empire ships orbited the planet, their massive forms outlined by the gas giant's light. The command ships, larger and more powerful than any Mason had seen, floated in the center, directing the smaller vessels around them. "They think no one can reach them here," Mason said, scanning the formations. "But they've made the same mistake as before. They underestimate humans." The Terran provided crucial intel. Their data showed weaknesses in the shield generators, small windows where concentrated attacks could penetrate. Mason studied the information carefully. "We hit the shields at these points," he said, pointing to the display. "Our missiles and torpedoes must strike at the same time from multiple angles. Only then will the command ships be vulnerable." The order was given. The human ships and their allies maneuvered into position. Stealth craft slipped past the outer patrols, carrying modified nuclear warheads designed to detonate inside the command ships. At the moment of attack, silence fell over the human bridges. Every sensor, every screen, every hand waited. "Launch," Mason said, his voice firm. Missiles and torpedoes streaked toward the command ships in perfect synchronization. The outer vessels of the Empire's fleet responded first, firing energy, beams and flares. But the Terran's guidance allowed the human projectiles to slip through the defenses. The first command ship's shield shimmered under the assault, then fractured as the missiles struck the exposed points. Explosions erupted inside, lighting up the ship's hull with fiery brilliance. The force of the blast sent fragments tumbling into space. Direct hit on the first command ship shattered one operator. The other ships hesitated, unsure how to respond without their leader. The smaller vessels tried to regroup, but confusion spread quickly. Mason had counted on this. Chaos among the enemy allowed the next wave to strike with devastating precision. Each command ship faced multiple hits in seconds. Shield generators flickered and failed. Human torpedoes found the reactors and core systems. One by one, the central vessels erupted in controlled explosions, sending fireballs and debris into the void. From Earth, Lena watched the live feeds through secure communication relays. "Sir, sensors indicate multiple explosions across the central fleet. The Empire's coordination is collapsing." Mason allowed himself a brief nod. "Good. Push forward. Keep the pressure on." Smaller ships, now leaderless and disorganized, tried to flee or mount weak counterattacks. Human fighter craft, guided by Terran scouts, intercepted them efficiently. Boarding teams launched from destroyers to seize control of disabled enemy vessels. The human forces moved with precision and determination, never giving the Empire a chance to recover. One of Mason's officers reported a problem. "Sir, the remaining fleet is regrouping near Jupiter's upper atmosphere. They might try a counterstrike." Mason studied the display. "We expected that. Split our forces. One group continues targeting command ships. The other blocks any escape routes. No one leaves until the fleet is neutralized." The battle raged for hours. Massive explosions illuminated the gas giant in fleeting bursts of light. Projectiles and energy beams cut through the void. Each moment brought more human victories. But the risk remained high. One misstep, one miscalculation, and the Empire could overwhelm them. Despite the danger, the crews fought with relentless determination. Pilots dove through asteroid fields to avoid enemy fire. Torpedoes guided themselves with deadly accuracy. and engineers repaired critical systems under pressure. Every action contributed to the larger goal, dismantling the Empire's central fleet, finally. After a long and brutal engagement, the last command ship erupted in fire. The remaining enemy vessels, leaderless and disorganized, began retreating. Into deep space, Mason's fleet had struck the heart of the Empire's operations near Jupiter and won. The victory sent waves of hope across Earth and among the Terran. Lena's voice was calm but excited as she reported, "Sir, the fleet is shattered. Supply lines and communications are disrupted. The Empire will not recover quickly." Mason took a deep breath and allowed himself a moment to look at the stars. "This is more than a victory. We've shown the galaxy that the Empire is not invincible. Others will see what we've done and know that resistance is possible." The Terrans sent transmissions from hidden systems, thanking the humans for their bravery. "You have done what we could never imagine," one message said. "Your courage gives hope to the oppressed across countless worlds, back on Earth." Celebrations were cautious, but heartfelt. People knew the fight was not over. But the news of such a decisive victory lifted spirits everywhere. Mason and his team knew they had only won a critical battle, not the war. But for the first time, humanity could see a path forward. As the fleet returned to safer positions beyond Jupiter, Mason addressed his officers. "We struck the Empire where it hurt most. But remember, the fight continues. We must be ready for whatever comes next. And we must help those who now know they are not alone." Lena nodded. "The galaxy is watching, and now they have hope. Because of us." Mason allowed himself a small smile. "Then we'll make sure that hope does not fade." The Empire underestimated humans, and they paid the price. Next, we will show them that no world should ever be taken without a fight. The human and Terran fleets moved cautiously back toward Earth, carrying the knowledge that they had changed the balance of power. The Empire was wounded, and the oppressed species of the galaxy had seen that one determined world could challenge even the greatest power. Humanity had not only survived, but had become the spark for a rebellion that would echo across the stars. The days after the Jupiter battle were tense but hopeful across the galaxy. Transmissions from hidden systems carried the news of Earth's victory. The Empire had suffered a catastrophic loss, and word of human resilience traveled faster than any fleet. Those who had lived under the Empire's control whispered of rebellion, and many prepared to rise. On Earth, General Mason stood in the command center, watching the holographic map of the solar system. It showed the locations of remaining Empire vessels and supply depots. Many had fled into deep space, but their numbers were shattered, their coordination broken. "They won't give up easily," Lena said, standing beside him. "They'll regroup somewhere, maybe beyond the outer planets, but they'll be weaker now, and their fleets are scattered." Mason nodded. "True, but strength alone doesn't win wars. Strategy, courage, and the will to fight do. Humanity has all three." The Terrans sent another message, offering further guidance. They had identified key Empire bases and nearby systems, lightly defended but crucial for the Empire's recovery. Mason knew that hitting these bases would cripple the Empire's ability to rebuild and inspire oppressed worlds to join the rebellion. A global council was called. Leaders, military officers, and Terran advisors joined in secure communication. Mason addressed the group. "We have already proven we can strike the Empire where it hurts. Now, we must finish what we started. The galaxy is watching, and Earth has a chance to lead." Plans were drawn to strike the outposts. Human engineers and Terran experts designed combined fleets, blending human warships with Terran stealth technology. Supply lines, navigation systems, and weapons targeting were coordinated for maximum efficiency. The goal was clear: liberate the systems under Empire control and prevent the Empire from regrouping. The first mission targeted a mining colony in the Killer system, vital for the Empire's fuel production. A small fleet slipped past enemy patrols, using hidden warp lanes provided by the Terran. The defenders were strong but unprepared for the combined human-Terran strategy. Missiles struck supply depots. Energy shields were disrupted, and boarding teams captured key installations. Within hours, the base was in human hands. Communications sent to other oppressed worlds announced that Earth and its allies had liberated Killer. The victory spread hope. Other enslaved species began organizing resistance movements. Reports arrived from distant systems, sabotage in factories, uprisings on colonies, and captured Empire patrols. Humanity had become a symbol. Encouraged by the results, Mason prepared the next wave. The fleet moved systematically, hitting supply routes, repair yards, and smaller command posts. Each strike was precise, minimizing unnecessary destruction while crippling the Empire's operational ability. Back on Earth, Lena coordinated the communications. She watched as new worlds joined the fight against the Empire. Sir, the galaxy is starting to see us not as a single planet, but as a rallying point. Mason smiled faintly. That's what humanity can do. We are small, but we are determined. We fight for survival, for freedom, and for those who cannot fight for themselves. That is strength the Empire cannot understand. The Empire, desperate to maintain control, attempted a counterattack. Several remnants of their fleet moved toward the liberated systems. But the Human-Terran alliance was ready. The forces intercepted them, outmaneuvering the enemy with superior strategy and knowledge of weak points. Each engagement further weakened the Empire. Soon, entire sectors began to defect. Enslaved species rose against Empire officers, often with the help of human-led strike teams. Command ships that had once seemed invincible now drifted aimlessly or were destroyed in careful, calculated assaults. On Earth, celebrations were measured. People knew that even as victories came, vigilance was required. Mason spoke to a global assembly broadcast across every continent. We have fought for survival, and we have won battles no one thought possible. But our fight is not just about Earth. It is about freedom for all who have lived under the Empire's shadow. Humanity stands not as conquerors, but as liberators. Everywhere, people listened in awe. Soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike were inspired. The idea that a single planet could challenge an entire galactic empire captured imaginations. And Hardstadt in the final battle, the Human-Terran alliance, targeted the Empire's central command hub, located in a remote system near the galaxy's edge. This hub coordinated fleets across multiple star systems. Destroying it would cripple the Empire permanently. The fleet approached cautiously, using every stealth and diversion tactic learned from previous battles. The hub's defenses were formidable, but the combined knowledge of humans and Terran made the difference. Strategic strikes disabled shield generators and communication nodes. Missiles and railguns struck key structural points. Boarding teams infiltrated to secure critical systems. Hours later, the hub exploded in a controlled sequence, a massive fireball illuminating space. Sensors confirmed the Empire's remaining fleets were leaderless and retreating. Resistance cells across the galaxy signaled their success. Mason allowed himself a long breath. "It is done," he said softly. Lena looked at him, eyes shining. "The Empire is finished, sir. We've done it." Mason nodded. "Not just Earth. Every species that fought with us, every world that resisted, played a part. Humanity sparked a change. That is what matters." Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted. Freed colonies began rebuilding. Communication networks reopened. Trade routes resumed. The oppressed, who had long suffered in silence, were now free. And Earth, having led the fight, was recognized not as a conqueror, but as a protector and symbol of hope. Back on Earth, Mason walked among the people for the first time in months. Streets were filled with cheering crowds, children waved flags, and families embraced. Thankful for survival, and inspired by humanity's courage, Lena joined him, looking at the sea of faces. "Do you think they understand what we've done?" she asked. Mason looked at the sky. "Where stars shone brighter without the threat of alien warships, they will. Stories will be told for generations. The galaxy will know that humans are strong, clever, and unyielding. And when they face danger, they will remember Earth in secret." Human and Terran forces continued to coordinate, helping rebuild freed worlds and prevent the Empire's remnants from regaining strength. The galaxy began to unite, inspired by the courage of a single planet that refused to bow. Mason stood on a balcony overlooking the city as the sun rose. It was peaceful now, but the memory of war lingered. He knew humanity had learned a lesson. Strength alone was not enough. Unity, courage, and the will to fight for what was right were what had changed the course of history. For the first time in generations, humans could look to the stars without fear. They had not only survived, but they had become a beacon across the galaxy. Oppressed worlds whispered of Earth, of its people who dared to strike the unstrikable, and of the hope that had been born from courage. Humanity had ascended.